Welcome to the Lyfe podcast.
Yes, peace to the world. Welcome to the Life Podcast. Of course, this is the host CJ. Today, we're going to be talking about a very serious topic, something that's very important to me, and more than likely very important to you. We're going to be talking about fatherlessness, and we're going to be talking about it from a global perspective. But then I'll go ahead and dive into specifically the United States, and then I'll show even more further what that looks like from a racial component, talking about Black children, Hispanics, and of course Caucasian children. Um, Obviously this is an important topic, and I feel like someone like me should speak on this for a number of reasons. I was fortunate to be raised by my biological father, so in terms of the numbers, I'm actually considered lucky in the United States to have that happen. And so I want to show what that's been able to do for me, and the certain qualities and benefits that came with that I do see lacking with some other folks that did not have a male figure in the house, or did not have their biological father in the house. And that doesn't necessarily make me better than anybody, but it has given me, again, certain qualities and certain attributes that that I possess today. And if it wasn't for specifically my father, there's no telling if I would be able to, do what I'm doing now and be the same person. And of course, shout out to all the mothers in the world. But I do believe that there are certain roles indeed that men and women have. And I don't think that, across the board, all roles can be transitioned or fluctuated between the mother and the father. I think that they're both significant, and I think that they pose um, unique benefits for their children that they can only get from their mother or their father. So in this case, we're going to be talking about fatherlessness, and I'm not going to waste any more time. So let's get into it. All right, so if you look here, this is from statistica.com. It's a quite reliable source. If you see, this was Catherine, looks like Catherine Buchholz, written May 8th, 2020. So it's very recent. And so this article says the US has the highest share of single parenting. So what is going on specifically in the US to where, folks or children are lacking a parent, right? What's going on? There's a lot of different, you know, things you can say to attribute to that, but of course, us having, mass incarceration, high rates of murder and stuff like that, and obviously divorce, high rates of divorce, those things come into play, right? But let me go ahead and read some of this to you so you can get a greater picture. So let's get to it. According to Pew Research Center, the US has the highest share of single parenting in the world. In 2018, almost a quarter of US children under the age of 18 lived in a household with a single parent and no other adult present other than adult children. So that basically means one out of every four children in America are growing up in a single parent home. Being a single parent predominantly affects mothers around the world. And in the US, around 20% of children live with just their mother, while around 5% live with just their father. So it's almost inherent, right? It's almost natural, right, for there to be more single mothers as opposed to more single fathers. And I think that just deals with a lot of the infancy, right? The fact that the child, the baby, the newborn is just more attached to the mother. And naturally, I think the mother is just more attached to the child. Not to say that the male or the father isn't attached to the child. It's just we know what it is when you carry a child for 9 months. You have a human being that you created inside of you. So, from my perspective as a male, I can see how women are just more attached to their children naturally. And I could see why more men would leave as opposed to why more women would leave. But continue on. In 2019, 49% of Black children in the US lived with one parent, as did 28% of Hispanic kids, and 21% of white kids. So, as we know, the United States is a majority white country. So, when you see 21% of, you know, white children not having their or living in a single parent home, right? That is going to skew the percentage to that 25%. So now when you look a little bit deeper into the demographics, right, you see that half of Black children don't have or live in a single parent household, and almost a third of Hispanics live in a single parent household. So those percentages are what skew up the total percentage, which was again 25%, right? But as we see, it seems to be an ethnic issue that is going on. But when I read this next paragraph, you'll see that it's actually a nationwide issue. So check this. The UK has the second highest rate of single parenting, followed by island nations San Tome and Principe, Russia, and Denmark. The only African country in the survey with more than 15% of children living with single parents was Kenya, which is actually very interesting because I know some Kenyan women and they are absolutely off the chain completely. That's my own opinion. I won't go into detail. That's another podcast, but I'm not surprised to see Kenya having, the highest rate of single parenting households. So some of the countries with the lower rates of single parenting were Afghanistan, which was 1%, Mali, 1%, and Turkey, 2%. I definitely wanted to show you this map. Again, the US has the highest share of single parenting. So when you look at this map, right, this is the map of the world. When you look at this map, you can see, again, it's like it seems to be, if you look here, it's the Eurocentric countries, right, that have the highest rate. Here's Russia with 18%. You got some European countries, the UK with 21%. I'm not sure which country this is pointing at. It might be Sweden, 17%. You see the US with 23. But if you scale in to Africa and definitely Asia, right, you see that there's not high rates of single parent household, basically meaning the child's being raised by both their parents. And so, that asks the question, what is going on? Right. So it kind of goes to the previous content I put out with, marriage rates in America dropping and so forth. I'm just pointing this stuff out, but of course I would like to talk to some folks about what's going on. But before we do that, let me show you something else. So here, let me see if I could zoom out a bit. This is Kids Count data center. So this is something that is, of course, recent as well. So this source of data is from 2021, which is basically stating the same thing, right? Here it is. Children in single parent families by race and ethnicity in the US, in the United States. So you'll see like different numbers, right? Of course, not all data is going to be precise and on point because they use different methods. But the overarching idea to take from this is just a fact of not so much the percentage, but the capacity, like how many youth overall are just out here alone. And you get into numbers where it's 1 out of 3 and 1 out of 2, which is bad enough, right? So when we look at this graph here, this is American Indian. They're about at 49%. We see Asians, this is about 16%. When you look at the Black, this is about 64%. Now, we looked at the other piece of material where it's at 49%. This is 64%. This was 2 years later. So this is 2021. That last piece actually was 2020. So, like I said, they compile their data in a number of different ways. It doesn't really matter if it's 49% or 64 or in between. The idea is that we have 1 out of 2 Black children not being raised by more than likely their father. But we'll get into that. Let's keep going. So Hispanic, you see, is 42%. The non-Hispanic white, which is basically Caucasian, this is the 24%. And you got two or more races, 38%. That could easily be mixed race. And then right, the overarching is 34%. So like I said, a little bit different numbers, but the point is to just give you a visual of what this looks like. So here we have an article, fathers.com. I came across it, and here we have the title, The Extent of Fatherlessness, right? Yeah, so this is a source now. What makes this source unique from the last two pieces that we saw was the fact that it drives in specifically into fatherlessness. So it doesn't talk about single parent homes. Now it's driving into fatherlessness, which is what we wanted to get into anyways, right? So check out some of these data points. More data on the extent of fatherlessness. Okay. So an estimated 24.7 million children, which is 33%, live absent their biological father. 33%, one out of every three children in the US is living without their biological father. Here we go. Two of students in grades 1 through 12, which is basically 5 to 18 or 17, 39%, 17.7 million live in homes absent their biological father. So what makes this one different from the first one that we reviewed was this didn't count infants. And so you can see if the percentage is driving up, that means it seems to be that the fathers are there at the beginning and then they eventually wave off, according to what this data is saying. But yeah, grades 1 through 12, you know, almost 40% of children are not living with their biological fathers. And then here we have 57.6% of Black children. 30, well, let me stop there because that's significant. This is the number that we want. This is the number that we want to look at. 57.6% of Black children are living without their biological father. More than half of Black children in the United States are living without their father. That's obviously clearly an issue. Okay, so I just want to point that out. Let's keep going. 31.2% of Hispanic children and 20.7% of white children are living absent their biological father. So those are significant percentages. But check this last point out. This is insane. According to 72.2% of the US population, fatherlessness is the most significant family or social problem facing America. So almost 3 out of 4 Americans say that fatherlessness is the most significant family or social problem facing America. More than drugs, more than domestic violence, more than whatever else is occurring in family households, right? So this was a brilliant source. I'm gonna try to leave these sources in the description, or you can just simply contact me. I can draw you these sources, all right? So what we've been able to review is obviously there's an issue with fatherlessness. There's an issue with parenting in the United States, and it's a severe issue. You know, when you compare other countries, you see that, you know, Africa has 1, 2, 3% fatherlessness rates. You have you know, Asia, parts of Asia with the same similar percentages. How do we get up to over 50% of Black children in America being fatherless? Right? It's obviously a significant issue. So, and what makes it significant is, you know, there's three things that I was able to come across, and I'll discuss it quickly as I need to get out of here. But number one, um, you know, morals and values. My father told me and taught me how to go about my business, personally and professionally, and to make sure that, you know, you're doing the right things, saying the right things, you know, giving wisdom and just ultimate respect. And that's what I see a lot with my generation and younger generations is we don't have a lot of respect for each other. There's a lot of disdain and there's a lot of envy hatred that's working amongst the people and seems to be taking over at this point. So, my father was able to give me his wisdom, and that has enabled me to um conduct myself as an adult, right? Respecting women, respecting people, respecting children, and just handling myself as a man. I think and this leads into number two, which is discipline. Um this has made me a very controlled individual. Um it's rare, if any at all, like you'll see me lash out to people, or you'll see me in any kind of like domestic dispute with a woman or anything like that. This is not my groove. Um, I was just taught better, and a secret to that, and I'll give some wisdom now. In case there's any men that are dealing with um some issues in their relationships with women. Um, Piece of advice I got is, there's women all over the world, man. You never have to stretch out too far to please anybody. Um, you don't have to stretch out too far to please a woman, and you certainly don't need to put your hands on her. Um, and that's the idea, right? Is a lot of men, they feel compelled to hit a woman or touch a woman because one, they feel entitled, two, they lack discipline, um, and three, they don't have any control, and they don't have that abundance mindset. I'm quick to leave. If there's a dispute, if there's an argument, like I'm quick to skedaddle. I'm out. You know, it's not worth putting my hands on a female. So before I do that, you'll definitely see me dip out. And that again, that's just the wisdom that I got from my father. A lot of black kids are not getting that. So they don't know how to go about relationships. They don't know how to go about treating people. Right. So what do we have? We have morals, and values. Number one. We have number two, discipline. And then lastly, before I get out of here, yeah, we have the masculine attention, right? All children need attention. And even more so in this day and age, young adults in my generation and younger need that attention. We need that guidance. And that's really what that's about. It's not to say again the mother cannot guide the child, but to put it into perspective of a boy, you know, a mother cannot teach a boy how to be a man. It's really truly only a man that can teach a boy how to be a man. And that's the case with this. Where, when I was a child, I would get in trouble. I would be out there running around with the friends, doing things I'm not supposed to do. And I get times I get in trouble, you know. And it was really my father that was that intimidation factor. Like, I remember my friends growing up, they were all intimidated of my father. He just kind of has that presence to him, but I respect that. And that's how I like to go about myself. Not necessarily trying to be intimidating, but letting people know and showing them like I am a man's man and I don't play games. And so that already in itself, when you receive that masculine attention, it does calm you down. It does put you in place because by the time most children reach teenage years, they're not quote unquote scared of their mother anymore, especially the boys, 'cause the boys are at that time probably taller than their mothers. So they can care less. They're not intimidated. So sometimes you need that masculine energy so that that boy can stare eye to eye with his father. They might be the same height, or even if the child's a little taller, you understand what I'm saying? Like it's a masculine frame, it's a masculine energy where you approach it differently. So it just naturally makes the child more disciplined. And that's what it came with me. When I wanted to do something stupid, I thought twice about it. I said, damn, how are my parents gonna feel about this? And even more so, how's my father gonna feel about this? Right. So, those are some important qualities that I've been able to learn just by having my father in my life. And of course, my mother has taught me an abundance of things as well, just simply like things that I know my father can handle, like, how to pay taxes, how to find the sales at grocery stores and stuff like that. Like those are like feminine traits, how to wash your clothes properly, stuff like that. You know what I mean? So obviously everyone has a role, and it's just important to have the mother and father, both in the household. And if they're not in the household, at least have a established um partnership that is effective where, the child gets to see both parents. At the least, right? This is what you want at the least. Anything under that, if you can't co-parent, then you're putting your child in a very suspect position, and you know expect, you'll get what the duck get, right? So with that said, I didn't want to stay too long. Just wanted to point that out. Hopefully I can have some conversations with some folks with a variety of different backgrounds. Maybe some folks similar to me, maybe some folks not so similar to me that have a different upbringing, right? Maybe ones that didn't have their father can come on here and tell the audience how that affected them, right? So that was just off the top of the head, man. I was kind of passionate about this one. I didn't want to write anything, didn't want to script anything. Again, the shirts are available. If you got confidence, if you like the confidence shirt, you know what I'm saying, go for it. All right. You know where the website is. The Life Network. Go to Google, just type in the Life Network. That's Life with a Y. Um, it's also life hyphen network.com. And of course, I'm on Etsy. So if you go to Etsy, just hit that search bar and just type in the Life Network. You'll find it. So with that said, I appreciate y'all listening. We'll talk soon. Peace.